Hi, my name is Brett Belan, and this is my 1973 solar electric VW bus. About 12 years ago, I built a solar-powered golf cart, and it was an absolutely amazing vehicle. And I always imagined, wow, if I just could build a large one that could go on the highway. Getting the bus was quite interesting. They still want $4,000 or $5,000 for these older buses, even with bad motors in. The solar part was just 2 hours a night after work, chop saw, cutting aluminum, drilling, until finally I was able to mount the panels and hinge them. And then there's the actuators that needed to be wired up so that it could tip up. So the idea of having a charging station, so to speak, right with the vehicle obviously allows you to go far beyond where you would need to possibly use a charging station. So you can really get out into nature and stay there because you have plenty of power to keep all your life support systems going while you're out there. So it really just gives you the ability to get out and beyond civilization a little bit and enjoy nature. So as you notice, we can tip up our solar panels and really get the most out of the sun. There is a canvas that attaches to this Velcro right here. So it starts there and it goes around, has a window in the back, and you access it from the bottom. There's a little ladder that you put in there. Me, my wife, and my 2 kids will sleep up there with plenty of room to spare. You can stand up, so if you wanted to play some music off the back or have a little dinette set to hang out and have a coffee, it's totally possible, and it's really nice. Puts you up above your campsite or the creek or whatever you're parked next to. So if you notice up here, you'll see a little piece of wood there that has some holes in it. Those are actually fans. And each panel has to have its own little controller. One of the challenges with doing a vehicle like this is there's just not a lot of components available to accomplish this. So we have to get kind of creative, and each panel gets its voltage of 32 volts maximum power kicked up to about 55. So otherwise this panel, even if I series all those panels, it only ends up being about 120 volts. And I need at least 200 to charge a 144 volt battery bank. So those little controllers step up the voltage on each panel to about 50 volts. And then when I combine them in series, I get 200. There's still probably 10% of the energy is lost in heat and such with these small controllers. So being able to design a controller, and we are in the middle of designing one, will give me just all the more power. So if you take a look at the dash there, you'll see a gauge which represents the voltage on each battery. So if you take the voltage of your total battery bank, you don't know what's happening in between, and sometimes the battery can drop really low. We can't push a battery further than it wants to go. So when we see that one battery start dropping down to the 9 volts, we stop and do a little solar charging or plug in. In the center there, you can see that's the -2 is power coming in. When we're in the full sun, we'll pull up to 8 amps. So that would be times 150 volts, the 1200 watts of the system. So that ends up being 40 and 50 miles in one day pulling out the sun. So let's take a look at the electric motor. So there you can see it's a 100-pound motor. So it replaces about a 250-pound gas guzzling, oil spurting situation with this super easy little 100-pound motor. Even the transmission is only a 200-pounder. So pretty much anything on this vehicle is just really manageable to work on and deal with. Where the gas tank used to be, we have the motor controller, the chargers, and a bunch of other little components. Like we need 12 volts to run all the normal accessories on the van, but the electric battery bank is a high voltage battery bank, so you need to step down that high voltage to run kind of the typical accessories on the van. We have some pretty basic batteries in here. They're just golf cart batteries essentially. There's 12 of them. They're all in series, so you just keep adding them up and you end up with a nominal 144 volts. So you need higher voltages to really get the power out of these banks to run a heavy vehicle like this. I made my own interconnects because I found, after studying lead-acid batteries for a lot of years doing off-grid power, that some of the main issues with these batteries come from just having poorly connected terminals and bad crimp connections. So I made my own wires by smashing some copper rod and making sure that each battery has a perfect torque connection, and you really notice the difference. Each battery then can contribute evenly and much more efficiently. I'll get about 80 amp hours per battery pulling anywhere from 100 to 250, 300 amps out of each battery, and that gives me my 50-mile range. A lot of people like to talk watt hours, so that would be anywhere from 150 to 300 watt hours per mile. I also have an inverter which comes off of this 144 volts, and that gives me 2,000 watts to run my electric chainsaw if I need it, or larger things like heaters and air conditioning units and things that require more power. There's a lot of power here to do other things besides drive the vehicle. I mean, driving the vehicle takes so much more power than it does to run even an air conditioner. So one question I get a lot is this thing top heavy? When you put the canvas up there, you have this huge sail. However, with 1,000 pounds of lead ballast near the center of the vehicle, we haven't really seen a problem. We came through some pretty high winds on our trip, and even though it blow the canvas around a little bit, the thing won't budge. So I have a level 2 charger, so if the solar is not putting out what we need to be traveling, then I can plug in. I can also plug in with a regular 110 cord anywhere I want that has an available 110. But the charging stations are typically 220, 30 amp service, and that'll charge this particular battery bank up in about 2.5 hours. One thing I'd like to mention is I just put this in a couple days ago. It's a power steering unit, so it's an electric assist, basically steering column, which as you can see, and if I was to normally turn this wheel, it takes a little grunt. But if I come over here and put on my power steering, now I can just turn it really easily. So this is a 1973. It is a transporter, which means it didn't originally have any camping package associated with it. So that's all been added. Mostly my wife Kira made the kitchen here and the fold-out tables and the floor. It really made the bus feel a lot more like home. The sink has a little pump in it, so we have a dirty and a clean jug. It seems to serve us for a week or so. It's pretty good. We conserve on our water. So for cooking, we have a small induction burner that pretty much serves all of our needs. You're just parked and you're pulling power off the sun. It's pretty negligible even what you're pulling off that burner. It ends up being just about the same power as the panels put in. So if you cook for an hour, it doesn't take too much out of your range. For refrigeration, we have a small Dometic refrigerator that is amazing. It takes so little power, we don't even notice that. I pretty much just leave it on all the time. The seats are out of a Sprinter. They were actually brand new, about $4,000, so that's something if you didn't want to spend a whole lot on here, you might eliminate, but they are so nice. It's like having 2 lazy boys in the front, and we were able to then get a custom seat built over the top of that battery box. It was 2 years of work, 2 hours, 3 hours a night. Phase 1 was to do it cheap, because depending on who looks at the vehicle, some people can't imagine only going 50 miles a day. Other people, it's like satisfies all of their needs. But phase 2, however, is kind of the spare no expense stage, when I'll be putting lithium batteries in there to give me a couple hundred miles of range, and solar awnings, which will be a very interesting mechanical feat to be able to get enough power up on top to pull it out as awnings and then pull 100 miles or so off the sun each day. The message is slow down. The message is, you know, if you go 40 and 50 miles an hour with a vehicle like this, your range goes up so dramatically. You have everything you need with you, so there's no reason to go fast. There's nowhere to get to. It's the ultimate nature enjoyment vehicle. You can come into nature with totally low impact, quiet transportation, stay there, power yourself up, and move on and enjoy all the wonderful spots in America or the world for that matter. But slow down, you'll enjoy it more. The vehicle likes to be driven that way, and you'll get way more performance that way as well. So it's kind of naturally built into the bus is the idea of relaxing and letting go and being healthy and happy.